Nous ne pouvons pas accepter dans notre pays
In our
des
country,
femmes
he said, we can't
prisonnières
accept
derrière un
women
grillage,
who are
coupées
imprisoned
de
this
toute vie
way.
sociale.
For a populist president, it was a popular stance. A poll this summer found 82% of French people want the full veil banned in public. It's widely seen as anti-French and a symbol of oppression. But Kenza Drider, who took up the veil 11 years ago, says it's just cheap politics.
Depuis cette polémique,
This law will stigmatize Muslims, she says, and it's being used to distract French people from bigger problems.
Some of them wear the full-face veil, or niqab, which has recently been banned in France. A court in Paris has found an elderly French woman guilty of attacking one such Arab visitor. The French woman claimed she was outraged at the sight of the veil.
French law only allows pupils to wear discreet religious symbols. Headscarves, keepers and large crosses are banned under secularism rules, which separate the church as well as other religious organisations from the state, allowing for what France says is better equality in schools. The overdress gown, as well as the male version, the camis, had so far occupied a grey area, not facing an outright ban until now.
Now, let me be very clear. Islam does not encourage killing in any way, shape, or form unless it's justly made, meaning you're defending yourself, you're in a battlefield, and so forth. There were books written regarding how terrorism is a product of political conflicts, not religious ones. This kid who slaughtered that teacher who drew ugly and unacceptable cartoons of the Prophet ﷺ, he did not do it because he was a pure Muslim and he was just doing it for the sake of the religion. He did it because he felt oppressed in his own country. Muslims are almost, I think they're around like 7% of the French population. Yet, 7% is a big number, by the way. I think it's the largest number in terms of like the Western countries. Yet they are oppressed in the craziest way possible. You don't believe me? Look it up. France is one of the biggest countries who blatantly hate Islam. Islamophobia is there, like in public. In public. Arabs and all these, like all the Arab communities, they live in fear. That is the hypocrisy. Freedom goes for everyone. But no, in a country like France, if you are Muslim, freedom does not apply to you. You don't get the right to worship whoever you want. You don't get the right to say whatever you want. And guess what? It's not like Muslims are trying to plot and making some sort of like secret revolution. They just want to go to work, come back from work, pray 5 times a day, raise their kids, and that's about it. But no, that's unacceptable.
The superintendent has afforded the condemned an opportunity to make a last statement. He has declined to make a last statement. Are you ready to tell him?
National TV counselors say parents should monitor what children are watching.
The Prophet Muhammad is sacred to Muslims, and I can understand that, but for Muslims only.
I'm an atheist. Muhammad is not sacred to me. I understand that Muslims don't violate their law of blasphemy, and I don't blame them for not finding our cartoons funny. But they shouldn't tell me under which law I should live.
This is a DJ Underground exclusive.
Then, in August 2014, Western powers began to bomb ISIS strongholds.
From the moment the coalition started bombing the Islamic State in August 2014, things changed, of course. ISIS developed a logic of revenge, which intensified along with the bombardments. This meant that the people who wanted to launch actions in Europe gained in authority.
In late 2014, ISIS began to create an external operations unit. It developed a plan for a campaign of revenge attacks against Europe.
Breaking news out of France. The French police right now are hunting for masked gunmen who stormed the offices of a satirical newspaper, opened fire in the French capital today. At least 12 people are dead, 4 others are in critical condition.
Charlie Hebdo was a turning point.
Fue constatar una realidad.
Les frères de notre équipe, divisés en deux, ont fait Charlie Hebdo, alhamdoulilah. Moi, je suis sorti un petit peu aussi contre la police. Et donc voilà, on a fait les choses un petit peu ensemble, un petit peu séparés. C'était plus pour que ça ait plus d'impact. Je l'ai aidé dans son projet, en lui donnant quelques milliers d'euros pour qu'il finisse à boucler ce qu'il avait acheté. Et voilà, on arrive à synchroniser pour sortir en même temps, pour passer des problèmes parce qu'on était proches de la même affaire.
I was surprised. At first, I couldn't understand this alliance between Koulibaly from ISIS and Kouachi of Al-Qaeda. How was the association between Al-Qaeda and ISIS even possible? I realized it's simply a question of relationships. It's just that they knew each other. Personal connections sometimes go beyond a group's strategy. They may fight each other in Syria, but can still do things together in France.
Je veux ici, en votre nom,
today, in your name, I would like to express our gratefulness to those people who are wounded, to all those who have been killed by this cowardly assassination. Today, they are our heroes.
Porter atteinte à la liberté d'expression.
Freedom of expression can't simply be attacked. State authority can't simply be attacked. Of course, I'm thinking about my brother, but also his colleague who died, and his wife, the wife of my brother, his daughter, his child, and my whole family now.
World leaders joined in the condemnation. It was not just France under attack, they said. It was the principles of democracy and the freedom of expression which were also under threat.
On October 16th, 2020, Samuel Paty, a French secondary school teacher, was attacked and killed in Erigny-sous-Oise, Île-de-France, France, by an Islamist terrorist. The perpetrator, Abdullah Abouizadovich Anzorov, an 18-year-old Chechen Muslim refugee, killed and beheaded Paty with a cleaver and was shot and killed by police minutes later. A social media campaign against Paty was linked to his subsequent murder. One of Paty's students had alleged that in a class on freedom of expression, he had shown his students Charlie Hebdo's 2012 cartoons depicting the Islamic prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, despite the fact that she was absent from the class that day. She alleged that one of the cartoons portrayed an image of Muhammad naked with his genitals exposed. Since then, 10 people have been charged with conspiring with and assisting the killer, including an imam, a parent of a student, and 2 students at Paty's school. French President Emmanuel Macron said that the murder was, quote, a typical Islamist terrorist attack, and that a compatriot was killed for teaching children freedom of speech. The murder was one of several attacks in France in recent years, and the second terrorist attack in France during the 2020 trial, at which alleged accomplices to the January 2015 Île-de-France attacks were to be arraigned for terrorism targeting the cartoon's publishers. The Paty murder sparked debate in French society and politics. Many Muslims expressed offense at the cartoons, which were also the subject of the previous Charlie Hebdo shooting. The president of the French Council of the Muslim Faith condemned the murder, as did imams of several mosques. Several Muslim-majority countries, including Dekloma, Iran, Al-Urdan, and Al-Kuwait, as well as the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, denounced the attack and condemned the publication of the cartoons. The response of the French government to the murder was criticized by many Muslims, including the Turkish president Recep Tayyip Erdogan, some of whom called for a boycott of French goods. In November 2023, 6 teens went to trial on charges related to the murder. They were found guilty in December 2023 and given brief or suspended prison sentences. Samuel Paty was born on September 18, 1973, in Moulins, Allier. He attended Théodore de Vanville High School, Lumière Université Lyon 2, and the IUFM, Lyon. Paty was a middle school teacher of history, geography, and civics who taught for 5 years at the Collège Bédouin in Conflans-en-Roussillon, France, a suburb 30 kilometers, 19 miles northwest of central Paris. He lived 10 minutes away from the middle school in the small town of Erigny-Val d'Oise. He was married and had a 5-year-old son. The perpetrator, Abdullah Abouizadovich Anzorov, was an 18-year-old Russian immigrant of Chechen ethnic descent born in Moscow, Russia. Chechnya is a Muslim-majority republic and federal subject of the Russian Federation. Anzorov had moved to France with refugee status 12 years earlier as a 6-year-old boy. He lived in the Le Madeleine district of the Normandy town of Évreux, about 100 kilometers, 62 miles from the murder scene, and had no apparent connection with the teacher or the school. The Enzarov family moved from the village of Shalazi in Chechnya. Abdullah's father, Abuzid, moved first to Moscow and then to Paris. Enzarov's half-sister joined ISIS in Syria in 2014. In March 2020, the family had received refugee status and 10-year residency cards in France. Abdullah was not noticed by security agencies, though he had previously been in court on minor misdemeanor charges. Before the attack, he was in communication with 2 unidentified jihadists in Syria, including one Russian speaker. The jihadists were located through their IP addresses in Idlib, Syria, the last rebel stronghold of the country, which was under the control of the Hayat Tahrir al-Sham.
Since late February, hundreds of people have been taken to the streets to protest against this Islamist group and its powerful leader, Abu Muhammad al-Jolani. Amid these unprecedented protests, Jolani is now promising reforms.
Some have suffered under our authorities' discipline and question it, but some are also exploiting legitimate grievances and recent incidents.
There's too much corruption in the security services. We demand the overthrow and complete dissolution of the General Security Service, as well as the release of all individuals held in prison.
Hayat Tahrir al-Sham has recently carried out a purge in its own ranks and cracked down on rival factions. In a report published last September, the UN Commission of Inquiry in Syria concludes the group engages in arbitrary detention and grave human rights violations.
Hayat Tahrir al-Sham later denied responsibility for the attack. Immediately following the attack, Anzarov claimed responsibility in an audio message in Russian, in which he announced his readiness to be a shahada, martyr, and that he would, quote, avenge the Prophet by killing Pati, who had shown Allah in an insulting manner, unquote. In a video broadcast on Instagram, he referred to the Islamic State, among other Islamic terrorist organizations. Anzarov's family said they did not understand his actions. Anzarov had displayed signs of radicalization. On August 30th, he had posted a photo montage depicting a beheading on his Twitter account. His Twitter account had been reported to the platform Pharos without being tagged for further scrutiny. On September 13th, 2020, he made a Twitter thread denouncing, quote, the infidelity of the Saudi state, of its leaders, as well as all those who support them, unquote, a belief which he based on, quote, its participation in the founding of idols worshipped outside of Allah, referring to the UN, UNESCO, WTO, Gulf Cooperation Council, and the Arab League. While he was already showing signs of radicalization, Anzarov had made 2 requests for training in security operations through the National Council for Private Security Activities, the national licensing body, which were both rejected, quote, because of his involvement in acts of violence, unquote. Investigators are uncertain as to whether his requests were made to enable him to access sensitive sites. Anzarov's body was repatriated from France in December 2020. He was buried in his hometown in the Urus-Martinovsky district in Chechnya by about 200 people, some of whom shouted, Allah Akbaru.
Salam alaikum. Nous sommes devant le collège Bois d'Aulne à Conflans-Sainte-Honorine, là où l'abject a encore eu lieu. Nous avons assisté cette semaine tout simplement à la réponse d'un voyou qui est enseignant à cet appel de Monsieur le Président de la République à haïr les musulmans, à combattre les musulmans, à stigmatiser les musulmans. Ça fait 45 minutes que nous sommes en train d'attendre ici dans le froid parce que la principale, soi-disant, elle est en réunion. Ils ne nous ont même pas permis d'entrer dans le hall là. En tout cas, ça fait 45 minutes. Salam alaikum Zaina. Désolé de te voir dans ces circonstances, mais peux-tu nous raconter exactement ce qui s'est passé?
On était en train de faire un cours sur l'islam et mon prof, il a dit les musulmans lever la main. Du coup, déjà à ce moment-là, avec mes copines de ma classe, on n'a pas compris, on s'est dit qu'on va lever la main. On a levé notre main et il a dit là je vais montrer une image, vous allez être peut-être choqués, donc si vous voulez vous pouvez sortir du cours. Du coup on a dit qu'on fait une main comme tout le monde, vous devez voir comme tout le monde la photo que vous allez montrer. Du coup moi j'ai refusé de sortir du cours. Il a montré la photo. C'était le prophète Mohamed sans vêtements et il nous l'a montré comme ça. Du coup dans ma classe on a tous été choqués, même ceux qui n'étaient pas musulmans, on a tous été choqués. Du coup, on a tous été choqués et on est parti voir la CPE.
Qu'est-ce que ça t'a fait?
Ils ne respectent pas. Pour eux, on n'est pas égal à eux alors qu'on est humains comme nous. Comme je me suis exprimée et il s'est dit que je dérangeais son cours, il m'a exclu de l'école 2 jours. Moi déjà, je suis choquée qu'on me montre ça en homme tout nu alors qu'on fait des cours d'histoire. Ils ne nous respectent pas, ils ne nous voient pas comme les autres en fait. Pourquoi ils montent ça sur notre religion à nous? En quelque sorte envers les autres, ils veulent nous rabaisser.
C'est ce que tu as ressenti? Oui, j'ai appris que tu n'avais plus envie de venir à l'école après ça.
Non, j'ai plus envie d'aller dans ces cours, c'est pour voir des trucs comme ça. Avec ce prof-là, j'ai plus envie.
Bati taught a moral and civic education course in early October 2020 on freedom of expression in accord with the French national curriculum. He showed some of his teenage students a caricature of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, from the satirical magazine Charlie Hebdo during a class discussion about freedom of speech. Before showing the caricature, Bati had invited Muslim students to leave the classroom if they wished. According to one student, he had previously shown these cartoons as part of the discussion every year since the Charlie Hebdo shooting in 2015. The gunman burst into the meeting room. The shooting lasted 5 to 10 minutes. The gunman then left the scene shouting, "We have avenged the Prophet Muhammad! We have killed Charlie Hebdo!" In the largest Sunni sects of Islam, any depiction of the Prophet Muhammad is considered blasphemous. According to France's anti-terrorism prosecutor, Jean-François Ricard, Bati's lesson plan included 2 depictions of the Prophet Muhammad, including one where he is naked with his genitals exposed. Brahim Shnina, a female student's father, accused Bati of disseminating pornography to students and filed a criminal complaint with the police. Bati responded by filing a complaint of defamation. What the fuck? He's totally in the wrong for that. Seriously. This is me talking to you, the audience. Showing pornographic images to children's wrong. How is this a discussion? Come the fuck on. Shnina claimed on YouTube and Facebook that Bati had displayed an image of the Prophet Muhammad nude. He named Bati and gave the school's address. He encouraged other parents to join him in action and mobilize against the teacher, whom he described as a thug.
Nous sommes devant le collège Bois d'Aulne à Conflans-Sainte-Honorine, là où l'abject a encore eu lieu. Nous avons assisté cette semaine tout simplement à la réponse d'un voyou qui est enseignant à cet appel de Monsieur le Président de la République à haïr les musulmans, à combattre les musulmans, à stigmatiser les musulmans. Ça fait 45 minutes que nous sommes en train d'attendre ici dans le froid parce que la principale, soi-disant, elle est en réunion. Ils ne nous ont même pas permis d'entrer dans le hall là. En tout cas, ça fait 45 minutes.
Salam alaikum tout le monde. Voilà, j'ai décidé de faire cette vidéo pour vous dire en face que ma fille elle a été choquée suite au comportement de son prof. Je n'aime plus employer ce mot prof, c'est un voyou d'histoire qui est censé leur apprendre l'histoire et la géographie. Alors cette semaine, il s'est permis de leur dire les élèves musulmans lèvent la main. Ils ont levé la main et il leur a dit voilà, vous sortez. Ma fille a refusé de sortir en lui demandant pourquoi. Il leur a dit comme quoi qu'il allait diffuser une photo qui va les choquer. Certains élèves ils sont sortis, ma fille n'est pas sortie. Effectivement, il a montré un homme tout nu en leur disant que c'est le prophète. Il a dit que c'était le prophète des musulmans. Quel est le message qu'il a voulu passer à ses enfants? Quelle est la haine? Pourquoi cette haine? Pourquoi un prof d'histoire se comporte comme ça devant des élèves de 13 ans? Cette histoire, c'est mon histoire, c'est la fille de ma fille. C'est ma fille, elle a 13 ans. Et il n'y a pas que la classe de ma fille qui est concernée, il y a toutes les classes de 4e. Et à mon avis, il se comporte comme ça depuis plusieurs années. Alors, tous ceux qui ne sont pas d'accord avec ce comportement, ou tous ceux qui ont rencontré des difficultés, où leurs enfants ils ont été renvoyés parce que ma fille, comme elle a refusé de sortir de la classe, le prof il l'a renvoyée de la classe en lui mettant un autre motif. Si vous voulez qu'on soit ensemble et qu'on dise stop, touchez pas à nos enfants, envoyez-moi un message au 06 60 53 02 62. Ce voyou ne doit plus rester dans l'éducation nationale, ne doit plus éduquer des enfants, il doit aller s'éduquer lui-même. Merci de partager un maximum. Je pense que vous êtes tous concernés. Je parle au nom de ma fille, mais vos enfants aussi, on leur fait la même chose dans la classe.
Les Grandes Mosquées de Bataan published a video on its Facebook page a week before the murder. Abdel Hakim Safrawiou, a member of the Conseil des Imams de France and an Islamist militant known to French anti-terrorism police, accompanied the parent in his protest against the teacher in front of the school for showing the caricatures and demanding to meet the school's principal. Safraoui called the teacher a thug in a video while denouncing the administration of the college. He demanded the teacher's exclusion from high school with the rectorate. The term thug had been repeatedly used by the parent, Brahim Shnina, earlier. The videos were taken down in the hours after the murder. Shnina also filed a complaint with the school and encouraged people to protest at the school. A meeting was held between the head teacher, the teacher, and an official from the education authority. Shnina additionally filed a legal complaint about Bati's lesson, leading the teacher to go to the local police station, accompanied by the principal. Bati told the investigators he could not understand the complaint because Shnina's daughter was not in class on the day Bati showed the cartoon. In March 2021, Shnina's daughter, known as Z, admitted she had been suspended from school due to truancy since the day prior to Bati showing the cartoons, and, as such, she had not been in the classroom that day. Instead, she made up the cartoon story to appease her father. According to the Bati family lawyers, however, Brahim Shnina was aware that his daughter had been expelled
before the cartoon incident.
On October 16th, 2020, a week and a half after Bati's freedom of speech class, Anzarov was driven to Bati's school by an alleged accomplice and waited outside the gates of the school. He asked a number of students to point out the teacher. He paid 2 students, aged 14 and 15, around 300 euros to identify Paty. The two then waited with Anzorov for 2 hours until they sighted Paty leaving. A Friday, it was the last school day before a 2-week holiday. Anzorov had told them that he intended to hit and humiliate Paty, according to Jean-Francois Ricard, in order to, quote, make him apologize for the cartoon of the Prophet Muhammad, Assalamu alaikum. Anzorov then followed Paty as he left the school. Using a knife 30 centimeters, 12 inches long, Anzorov killed Paty and beheaded him in the Rue de Besson-Menu in Eragny-sur-Oise, near the school where Paty taught, at approximately 5 o'clock p.m. In addition to decapitating Paty, Anzorov inflicted a number of wounds to his head, abdomen, and upper limbs. Witnesses told police they heard the killer shout, Allahu Akbaru, the takbir, during the attack. Minutes after the murder, an account named at @Chechen_270, identified by prosecutor Jean-Francois Ricard as belonging to Abdullah Anzorov, posted on Twitter an image of Paty's severed head. The photo was accompanied by the message, quote, in the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful, to Mechon, leader of the infidels, I executed one of your hellhounds who dared to belittle Muhammad. Calm his fellow human beings before a harsh punishment is inflicted on you. The image was seen by many of Paty's students. Minutes later, Anzorov was confronted by police about 600 meters, 660 yards from the scene in Eragny near Conflans-Sainte-Honorine, and the police tried to arrest him. Anzorov shot at the police with an air rifle and tried to stab them with a knife. In response, the police shot him 9 times, killing him.
Abdullah Anzorov est très menaçant. Il est déterminé à en finir et avance vers les policiers. Il a un couteau à la main et son pistolet à billes.
Anzorov aura un dernier soubresaut devant un des fonctionnaires de police, va tenter de se relever pour essayer de répliquer jusqu'au dernier moment avant d'être abattu.
On Anzorov's phone, they found a text claiming responsibility and a photograph of Paty's body. 16 people were later taken into custody for investigation. They included Anzorov's grandparents, parents, and 17-year-old brother. Also arrested were Safraoui Brahim Shnina, the father of a girl in Paty's class, who is suspected of issuing a fatwa against Paty, and 4 students who are suspected of taking money from the killer in exchange for identifying the teacher. French police announced that there were more than 80 messages on social media from French people supporting the attacker. The French Minister of the Interior, Gérard Darmanin, ordered that the Grande Mosquée de Baton was to be closed for 6 months. The mosque, which has about 1,500 worshippers, situated just north of Paris, was ordered closed for having published videos inciting violence against Samuel Paty. Its imam, Safraoui, is under investigation and remains under arrest. The mosque removed the posts after the murder and expressed regret over publishing the videos, and published instead an announcement condemning the savagery of the teacher's killing.